Welcome to Cycle Breakers and Moneymakers, a podcast for women of color and first gen who are breaking generational cycles and glass ceilings by going places no one before them has ever gone. I'm your host, leadership coach, and eldest daughter of immigrants, Mariela De La Mora. I left a 16-year marketing career to create a multiple six-figure-a-year coaching business as a single mom. Each week, you'll learn how to build unshakable self-trust, become in demand, lead with confidence, and make more money by being more of who you are. Hello, everyone. So I've never done an episode like this before. I'm very excited. I've brought on board 5 of my clients who are currently in reclamation, are on their second or third round. And really what I wanted to bring in this discussion was them sharing their experiences, not only about landing clients and getting booked out and in life transitions, but also like how business can be different, how we can feel more peaceful in business, how business can feel more sustainable, how we can find community we deeply connect with, how we can feel safe and supported in our business, how we can feel at home even in our business and not feel like despite our business, we're okay and like struggling with our mental health. And because they've experienced it and they also share these values with me, I really wanted to bring them here to kind of tell their stories. I'm going to ask them different questions about their journey, not just in reclamation, but also just in like what has really helped them, realizations that they've had as individuals, as well as parts of the mastermind that allowed them to actually access these things, because I want you to know that business, like I said, can feel different, because I think we're illustrating a lot of things that are not necessarily the norm when it comes to what we've been taught about what it takes to grow a business and who you need to be to grow a business. So with that, I am very excited to just introduce you to Dani Tan, Rosa Revuelta, Loraine Martinez-Bellamy, Michelle Seijas, and Yuritzy Gomez-Serrano, who are just incredible leaders. And I am just so excited to get this discussion going. Like I said, it's my first client panel interview. So I've just told them like, hey, we're all just like sitting around a table, except we're in front of a podcast mic. So I'm very excited to bring them to you today. And I'm just going to ask them to start by saying their names again so you can get the voice to the name, introduce themselves and what they do. And we'll just kind of start with Dani.
Hi, I'm Dani Tan. I'm a leadership and career coach. If you're looking to pivot careers, grow, all the fun things. I'm excited.
Hey. All right. Loraine?
Hi, all. I'm Loraine or Lo. I'm a life and business coach for high achieving women who are looking to expand fearlessly beyond their 90s.
Hello, Michelle.
Hello there. I'm Michelle Seijas, and shout out to Mariela. My dad would be so happy with how you pronounced my name because you did it correctly. Not everybody does. And I am a trauma-informed leadership coach and speaker, and I work with leaders of color, mostly in the nonprofit and education space, to help them to grow their confidence, value their strengths, and have a clear vision for their life and career.
I love that. Thank you, Michelle. Yuri?
Hello, everyone. My name is Yuritzy Gomez-Serrano. I go by Yuri. I'm a somatic coach for entrepreneurs, and I support them in healing and just supporting their nervous system so that way they can build businesses that they are at peace with, and also just to identify the best ways that they run their business based on just who they are.
Absolutely. Thank you, Yuri. And Josa?
Hi, I'm Rosa Revuelta. I am a leadership coach and I help burned out first and second gen leaders. Most of my actual clients are immigrants themselves or born in the US. The first one's born in the US, and I help them work less, find balance, and gain fulfillment while at the same time not sacrificing their careers.
Thank you so much, Rosa. I also just realized in looking at you all that I'm like, we've got so much experience in the room, just in general. Like, I think that that's a commonality. Like my clients have like past lives, essentially, that you all sort of brought into the work that you do, even if the work that you do is not an exact representation of what you did previously. But I just wanted to call that out, that I think that that is definitely felt in the reclamation space. And with that, I wanted, especially since we're talking about like past lives and skills and expertise that sometimes we don't give ourselves credit for, I wanted to ask you all, like, I know that something that's been kind of part of all of your journeys in different ways is marketing. And normally when people think about marketing, they think about there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it, and the right way to post and a wrong way, and you have to do it the right way. And the way that I define marketing, and I say this where I'm just like, listen, I'm a person who literally did it as my job. The best way to describe it is like people just knowing you exist and experiencing you and learning about how you help them. That could be shaking hands in a room. It could be on a stage. It could be in a podcast. It could be in any way that you communicate. And I believe, and a lot of what we anchor into is that you always want to start with what your gifts are and sort of what's already working. So I wanted to ask you all about marketing by making your gifts more public and how that gives you all permission to market in different ways. Because for some of you, that has been space holding and people experiencing having space held by you, like Yuritzy, where it's like there is a magic there, and how do people experience that magic publicly? And Michelle, you speak a lot on stages. So I wanted to open up with just what has it looked like for you to market in a way that is just, it's leading with making your gifts more public, especially if that was, you were trying to do it differently before. So I think whoever wants to like speak on that, I would love to hear.
This reminds me of our first round, I think, of Reclamation. One of our Reclamation sisters, Ariel, hi Ariel, was doing like, I don't even know. I don't think it was part of her astrology thing. I think it was part of just a regular coaching call, but I remember her telling me, yeah, Lo, you just have to be yourself, but louder.
Yeah.
And I ran with that like the rest of that Reclamation round because it clicked so well in my brain, where it was like, when we sit down to figure out what is the strategy going to be for this quarter or this year, how am I going to market? How do I want to do this? It just kept resonating in my head. Just be yourself, but louder. And what that meant to me was don't overthink the ideas that occur to you as ways to market and as ways to serve both your current clients, your future clients, and your community that may never be clients. And I think that led me, and has even this year led me to do a lot of things. Like I'm hosting a pivot clinic. This is my third one. So I'm doing it quarterly, and it's a group free coaching experience for a month. We meet weekly and coach on transitions and pivots in life and business. And that came as a result of just being booked out last year and wanting to continue to do something just creatively that would help my community. Yeah. And I just always hear Ariel in my head. And especially last year when I was shifting into selling only one-on-one and focusing on one offer and feeling all the feelings about it because I'm a group girl at heart. And now I just do groups for fun.
Yeah. How do you think that it's almost like you're hosting like service events, and that's part of how you market, and it's part of how you really like help and nurture your community. And you're sort of almost selling, but you're just like, I'm just going to help people. What does it look like for you to lean into your gifts? Like, what would you say are the gifts that you have kind of been more clear on and owned, where you're like, oh, this is easy for me. Like, this is just like me breathing.
Yeah. So I always say I'm a coach first. Like I'm like not a teacher. I know some of you guys are actual educators. And some of you are really good educators. I'm not like most of the realizations my clients are going to get from me are just from deep coaching versus like teaching them how to do anything. Events like that clinic that I've been hosting make it really easy for people to understand what my gift is with like the least amount of barriers to entry. Yeah. Because we're just doing open coaching. Sometimes I teach a little at the beginning for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, there's like a common thread. Like the pivot is like the common thread amongst all your clients. You're like, hey, let's just bring everybody together amongst a common thread. It's super simple. You don't have to go and do a whole curriculum or anything.
Correct. And then I think one of my other gifts as a coach is, you actually told me this last year, is that I can be disarming to people, especially in groups. A lot of women that I work with have like past like maybe girlfriend trauma or haven't had the best experiences with other women. And I love providing people an experience where you can be yourself and you can bring your full self, and you're going to be supported by other women that are similar minded to you or different, but there's still this level of support. And I think that comes from my direct interaction with each person. and creating, which you're very good at too, Mariela, creating a community where people feel like they can trust one another because I've vetted the people.
That makes sense. Seeing what they need. And you're just like, how do I create this environment? I think that you also, in terms of being disarming, because you market to very like high achieved certificate-based professionals who maybe think in those high achiever like ways, that the way that you market is very like conversational. And so I think it almost demonstrates like, oh, I feel like I can trust her. And it just feels very much like you're just showing up and talking, which I think actually would work better than if you were standing in front of a whiteboard and like trying to, deliver a lesson.
First of all, jump scare.
It's like, no. But I mean, it's like, I feel you on that. But I think that it makes a lot of sense that it's like you literally will show up sometimes and you'll pull cards from my deck. Like I wanted to share this with y'all just in terms of making your gifts more public. A way that Loraine has done this too is we have this Cycle Breakers and Moneymakers deck. And you just decided to take a card from the deck, and you did this for a while, and you're like, I'm just going to pull something and then I'm just going to speak on it. And just you creating situations for impromptu coaching opportunities has also been a way that you've leveraged your gift where like, I wouldn't have ever thought about that. I literally couldn't have taught you to do that. Instead of me teaching, you need to show up and you need to teach a lesson every day. I was like, hey, I'm going to teach finding your gifts, make them more public. And you came up with the idea of doing that. And then even like I said something about like, oh, what are 20 questions your clients are asking? You literally took it and ran with it. And it's like you're creating opportunities for you to impromptu just lean into your gift of showing up, talking, coaching. And that's it.
And now I'm on round 2 of the 20 questions, y'all. Let me tell you, 20 questions your people have will create content for 2 whole months. I'm only on like number 13 and I feel like I've been talking about it forever. Yeah. And the cards were so much fun and so easy. And I think knowing that about myself as a marketer now, that things for me need to be fun, easy, and of service. And if they are not any of those things, I'm going to overthink it, or I'm going to not do it, or I'm going to like play. And the cards were like the best. And they were also very instrumental during a difficult period in my life where I wanted to be connecting with people, but not necessarily about what I was going through, just connecting about other things. That was really helpful.
Okay. And that's good to know too, that sometimes we just need a thing to kind of focus on. And you're like, how do I get myself back into service energy? Thank you for sharing that with us, that it can feel easy if we create situations for our gifts to come out. And I think that in yours, it's like responding. You know how to respond. You give yourself something, a prompt, and you know how to respond to the prompt. And then that creates, service clients. We'd love to hear just any other thoughts on anyone else on leaning into your gifts and making them public.
I can go. So I'm a somatic coach. So for those that don't know what that means, it's just being able to connect to the wisdom of your body, whether through sensations, through emotions, and learning about that and just learning how to use it to guide you. And it's one thing to explain it, but then it's another thing to feel it, especially the type of work that I do. And so I think when I first started my business, it was really, I felt so much pressure to try to explain it perfectly, to try to like have it be all included in all the nuances included in a post. Like it was just so overwhelming. But I did notice that the thing that actually got me, more followers or just more people connected to my work is me having conversations with people on IG Live. And so that's how I got my first maybe 1,500 followers. I just had IG Lives like on rotation every couple of weeks for the first 6 months that I started my business, 6 to 8 months. And you were one of them, Mariela, I remember.
Yeah, I remember.
And so it was like people got to know me because obviously now I'm with another person that they're following and now we're having a conversation. And I originally started like supporting mainly women of color in overcoming self-doubt through somatics. But then, and just the clients that I was attracting and the people I was working with, it started to become mainly entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Then I kind of pivoted into working mainly with entrepreneurs. And again, it came back to like, I have a thing where just like, I like to do the most. So it's like, I need to do this, or
I think we all share that in this room.
Figure this out. And it's just, Oh, my poor brain and body.
I have to say that like nobody in this room has like an execution problem. Like it's just sort of like, well, we actually have to rein ourselves in, and like the opposite.
Absolutely. And in Reclamation, or like since we started, because I'm also one of the guest coaches, the thing that kept being reiterated is like, Yuri, like your work is just magic. It's just like, just do your work. Like just I'm like, okay. And I knew that because like I'm like, once people talk to me, or once I get to, whether it's having a conversation or having a full-blown session with them, even if it's a one-off, like they're in. Like if they're like they're in.
That's actually how I started working with you. Now that I think about it,
we just had a conversation.
You were testing, like you had learned it. Was
I had learned brain spotting, and we were
spotting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was that. And you were just like, yeah, it was like a brain spotting session, but we were friends. We were just talking. And then I think it was just like, okay, yeah, no, like this is what I need.
Right.
Yeah. And so when people kept using the word magic, it's like magic has to be experienced. It can't be explained. It was like, how can more people experience you without you literally coaching them for free? Which I know that you actually did like a strategy around how to help people experience your magic.
Yeah. Yeah. So I launched my first group this year in February, and oh my God, y'all remember I wanted to do this whole thing. It was like going to be like a 1 week, 2 week or something thing where I want to do all these.
I want to do like 5-part promotion series and all of this.
Mariela so graciously reined me in. She's like, how about you just focus
like, people are going to be very busy consuming how to participate in your launch that's going to be confusing them out of like distracting from actually doing it. And you're also just not going to like it.
Yeah. So especially my first launch, I mean, I don't know. So then I think I called it a workshop, or where it was around like my concepts, and I invited people in, and I was really surprised because I think I got like 70 signups, and like 40 people were there. Like it was like more than I was very surprised. I was like, oh my. Obviously I recommended people to be there live, but very surprised. And that was like the exact feedback that I got from one of the calls was the way that you ran that was so intentional. Like I felt so held. I felt so supported through that entire call. And I was like, yes, this is what I wanted.
Yeah.
And and like I met my goals. I have my group. I love it. It's been such a beautiful experience. But I think like really trusting myself, trusting that like my gifts are enough, and just creating that space for people to experience those gifts however I want to do it. And I'm in this phase right now because I'm taking like a mini sabbatical where I'm in a mini sabbatical right now, which like I'm growing, right? My business is growing. And I feel like it's very, I don't know, part of me is like, this is counterintuitive. You know, like I should not be taking this break. I should be leaning into like, how much we're growing. But there's just so much within me in my own healing process and my own growth and my connecting even deeper to my gifts. That it's like, no, this is what's needed.
Yes.
To then be able to grow in the way that I need to.
What comes to mind for me is stabilization. That like stabilization is part of growth. That I think you've just had your first launch. You had, how many folks are in your mastermind or in your group? 9 folks. So think about first launch, 9 people. It like that took intentionality. And now you're like, okay, stabilization also is just like, I want to ground myself. I want to reconnect myself back with self, and reconnect myself back with like my original intention and my vision and rest and all of that. So it's like, what if the things that feel intuitive are actually strategic too? Because our body is so wise, and our higher self is so wise that sometimes she's trying to tell us something and she's just like, listen, you're not listening to me. I've been telling you what you need to do. And sometimes we don't listen. But our higher self is telling us what we need to do. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I'm leaning into creating more spaces where I can, similar to kind of what Lo was saying, because I feel like because of what I did before in the nonprofit world, not becoming a new mom, I feel like there's this fear of like extractiveness, of being like too much being asked of me. And so I'm in this space where I want to dream and I want to create whatever that looks like, spaces for me, others to experience me, but that feel very regenerative, that feel supportive versus like a task that I have to do.
Yeah.
Still haven't necessarily found that yet, like how exactly it's going to look like, but that's one of my intentions going into this.
That makes sense. I love that you said regenerative.
Yes.
It's like you need this, the space actually becomes a requirement as we grow and as we are increasing our capacity. Because I think that's one thing is our natural, especially when we are high achievers or we're daughters of immigrants or we come from a survival background, that space can feel very uncomfortable and we will never have a problem filling that space. And so
no.
You this is who you coach. But it's like, yeah, now being like protecting your space and filling it intentionally versus reactively is part of it. You also did something around just helping folks experience your magic, right? Of space holding around, I think, was it that you put a post up or something saying like, does anyone looking for guest coaches? And then like a bunch of people took you up on it. And then you ended up being the in-house like nervous system coach for multiple people, including Reclamation. Tell us about that, because that's literally like such an example of something that you came up with, but it was based on the concept of making your gifts public.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot about that. I just put it on my stories. I was like, hey, does anybody want me to come on their group or the mastermind or whatever? And I can guest coach. And I mean, Michelle was one of the people that took me up on it.
Yeah.
And then Dosa invited me to her nonprofit. Like there was so many people in my circle that had already experienced me that wanted to bring me into their spaces.
Yeah.
And it's just been really, really cool just to see how that has evolved. And then how clients have come from that and just going back into like the experiencing of.
Yeah, that makes sense. You put that out there and people were like, yes. And it wasn't just guest coaching. Like, I think you came in and had some groups that you were in like multiple times and were really able to help them kind of like enhance what they were already offering to their clients, which I also think strengthened the gap that you are filling in the market between nervous system work and safety, and then entrepreneurship and growth. That is a literal gap in the market. And then you were able to speak to it more specifically because you then saw how it was showing up in like, it was almost like a very massive case study of you were working with folks one-on-one, and then you saw the dynamics in all of these groups. Anyone else have any making your gifts public realizations that you wanted to share?
Actually, the way you said mine seemed so like, oh yeah, but it's not anymore, or it wasn't when I met you. So yeah, speaking on stages has become the thing, but I was able to name that after my first round of reclamation. And former high school principal, I used to have people on campus all the time where I would be talking about, we're so great, like, selling ourselves. And when I moved into the nonprofit world, I remember I was like, I've never raised money, but I totally know how to sell things because I had to do it all the time. Like ideas that we were doing, like people understanding, kids of color, all that kind of stuff. But for whatever reason, when I actually was in a place where I needed to be selling and went into entrepreneurship, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And suddenly it was like, I had to read these marketing books and I had to figure out how to write a post and all this stuff. And I just created this block for myself. And, through various interactions with other entrepreneurs and coaches, that block was supported. And it just kind of grew that I actually didn't know how to sell and I didn't know how to market myself and I didn't know how to brand myself. When I felt so confident about it in past life, and maybe it was because money came into the picture and money added another layer that I didn't have to worry about before. But it was actually when you and I kept talking and I was like, I just wish I could just keep hanging out with people in person, because when that happens, like, it's just all works. And it was like eventually getting to this point of like, oh, speaking is my marketing. Networking, going to events is my marketing. Yeah. I can go to an event and I can network with a bunch of people and get 2 clients from it. Yeah. I can get on a stage and I can speak, and then I get an invitation to another speaking event. And for whatever reason, like there was this block that came into my mind when I became an entrepreneur that was not the same thing. And there was just something about going through the journey with you where I was like, oh, yeah, that's my gift. It's what I'm good at. It's what's the easiest way to make things happen. And yes, I still do emails and social media posts and all that stuff, but they actually now feel like secondary and supportive for folks who come into my world to be able to just continue to experience me beyond just one in-person interaction.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a journey for me to actually claim that as a strength, when in previous life I totally claimed it as a strength, but I didn't allow myself to name it as an entrepreneur. And so now I do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love what you said about how like you weren't really thinking about it. It was just sort of like that was just you having conversations with people and you were selling. And I think recognizing when we have sold in previous lives or in previous chapters, selling basically just meaning like you're explaining the benefits, you're inviting people to take an action, that I think when we go into entrepreneurship, because it's sold and packaged a certain way, that we then go in and maybe if no one is directly telling us, we make the assumption of we don't know what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And I think just knowing like we're not starting from scratch, we've all had previous experience that we've brought in where we were influencing, marketing, selling, and you definitely were as a high school principal.
Totally. And I think, it's the whole thing where like when we're coaching our clients, we're coaching ourselves. Like I coach my clients on this all the time now, but it's like, why would we have to believe that a transition into a new space meant that nothing before that mattered? Mm-hmm. And so being able to really reclaim all the experience I had before, being able to reclaim being able to reclaim, like you would have people come on campus and fall in love with your students because of the stories that you would tell and because of the way I would walk them around. It's no different now, right? And so anyway, being able to make that connection took me some time, but I think it relates to a lot of people who think that they can't translate to a new space, but we are who we are. And how do we just kind of own that regardless of the space that we're in?
Yeah.
It was the same thing for me. I had such a hard time with the concept of marketing or what I thought was marketing and what I thought I was supposed to do to be able to market myself. I just had so much fear when it came to putting myself out there and having people see me. And it was exactly what you said, Michelle. Like, why did I think that I had to create this whole new identity or I had to learn a whole new skill to be able to make my business work? When in reality, it was more about leaning into what I already knew. So for me, very similar, different type of education. Like I did prevention education in the nonprofit world. And so I was out doing presentations and workshops for the community all the time. Like that was my job. I also did it for professionals. I did it in so many different ways. And it was right before we started one-on-one with you, Mariela, that I was like, I'm just going to do a little bit of what I know. Like, I'm just going to think about it that way. Like, I'm just doing a presentation. Like, if I think about it, I'm just doing a presentation. I'm just doing a workshop, like not make it more complicated than it needs to be. Like, I'm just teaching somebody something. Then it felt easier for me because I kept being lost. I'm like, I don't know what to do for marketing. I don't know how to market. And it was just lean into your own strengths, into what you already need to do. And then you might have to learn a thing. Like I had to learn what a CTA was because I didn't know what that was.
So I was like, please ask me whenever I say that. And people are like, what's a CTA? And I'm like, oh, please ask me. Yes, sorry. I'm like, I use a different language in my brain.
So I totally relate in like the idea that you have to reinvent yourself. And no, it's just like elevating yourself or enhancing or just doing a little add-on to what you already know.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And what did that look like tangibly for you in your actual strategy? Because I know we've spoken about how like you were doing audio events on LinkedIn and it's like, I think sometimes we're doing something and then we say, yeah, but that's not marketing. Like I really need to start marketing my business. And I'm just like, okay, well, what are you already doing that's helping people know that you exist? Because that's already marketing. And like, why is that easy for you? And so how did that look for you as far as like leading with your strengths in terms of like your actual things you were putting out?
So I feel more comfortable when whatever I do centers community more than it centers me. So LinkedIn Lives felt very uncomfortable for me. Like I live on LinkedIn, that's where you'll find me. And so LinkedIn Lives felt really uncomfortable for me because I felt like there was a camera on me and I couldn't really connect to people other than they were writing a little comment. So the two things that I started with was I did LinkedIn audios. And I love that because one, you don't have to see my face. I'm just talking. And it also allowed people to like come on stage with me, which really means they could talk to me. Like we can have a conversation. And that felt much more comfortable.
I think I remember you telling me this and I was like, it's almost like Clubhouse for LinkedIn. I didn't even know that existed. Like when you told me that, I was like, I don't even think people realize that like there's LinkedIn events, audio, and you're able to bring people on stage. Like I love that.
Yeah. And people use it in so many different ways, but I just made it simple. Like if I can do 2 audio events a month, and people can come and get coached and I can talk to them. And then I was doing a Zoom event where like I marketed it on LinkedIn, but we meet in Zoom and it was a community building event where people can come and network, learn about a concept, get some coaching and did those for a while.
Community, because you were like, you didn't like talking at people. So you're like, how can I market in a way that includes dialogue?
Yes, exactly. Yes. So, and where like, and it's still something it's my growth edge where to get more comfortable talking about myself, but that allowed me to still have myself be a part of the conversation without it being totally focused on me. And I've gotten more comfortable with things since then.
Yes.
But it was, where do I start? So in total, like, and then again, I'm a mom, a single mom. So I was like, I don't have time to do all of the things. Like everybody's doing all these things. I don't have the time.
Yeah.
So it was,
and you had a full-time job also.
Full-time job. Yeah.
Yeah.
It ended up being 2 hours a month that I was doing, like 2 hours a month. If I can just do 2 hours to market myself, that feels doable.
Yeah. Then that's important too, to look at, like, there's folks with different capacities in life. There's mothers in this group. There's folks that had like high demanding full-time jobs, all the things that marketing doesn't have to look like super high, like output, certain number of emails a month. Like I always say this, like I'm the most inconsistent marketer. The only reason I'm consistent now when I want to be is because I have a team. But it's like, it's okay because it's more, we said this, like we had a call, Rosa and I on Friday, that was like a client success reverse engineering call. I'm really like kind of downloading your stories. And you said something about like value over volume. And I was like, yes. So that's another thing that tapping into your gifts lets you do, is the impact. Thank you so much. I love that example. I wanted to ask y'all about community. So when I say community, I mean, for me, the way that it's always felt to me is like a place that feels like that I'm seen, that I don't have to explain everything about who I am, especially like in a woman of color community. But also I think about community being a place where I can support and I am also supported. And it's hard because for me being the eldest daughter, I have such a hard time with receiving unless I'm giving more. Like I was taught, like if I'm going to somebody's house, I need to bring them something. Even if they tell me not to bring anything, I'm like, I'm stopping at Target. I'm going to bring you a bottle of wine. I'm going to bring you this. And they're like, no, it's fine. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to go. This is what I'm taught. It's like, I'm going to give you more than I asked you for. And just knowing that the room is the clients I attract tend to be that way, to be seen and actually let people support you it's not easy. That's not our norm. So to me, I always think about community, a true community that I feel safe in is one where we're not keeping tabs on one another like that. Like we are just freely like, I've got you. That's how my friendships feel. So that's what I mean when I say community. So I just wanted to ask you all about what has the community been like? And what has it been like to find community in reclamation? How, like when you think about your daily interactions from before you joined to now, what's it been like?
I'll share. So it's Dani, by the way. My heart's racing and I got really stressed out all of a sudden, but I knew this group would appreciate it. So for those of you who can't say dropped in the chat, I just felt really uncomfortable because community is tough. In this, not this community, but I think community is tough. So let me explain. Let's say if you are somebody who's like hyper independent, constantly over indexes in what you execute, high achiever, whatever you identify, and you're kind of like that, I can do it myself, or I've got me and me kind of a thing, and like no one can take care of me. Everybody leaves the room. So it can be really hard to like join a community and to open up, share, ask for help because you're always used to taking care of yourself from whatever level that may be. Mm-hmm. And so I think the biggest practice for me joining this community was how to ask for support, how to ask for help. And like you said, like it doesn't have to be a 1-for-1 exchange, or that you don't have to over index on how much you give in order to receive, which is still to this day, I don't know how long has it been now, 1.5 years working together.
Yeah.
It is still actively uncomfortable for me. So I posted even today in the Slack asking me whatever, I'll like put my wins, put my help. And after I do it, I still feel sick. Like I did it today. I was like, bleh, and I've been here for a year now. But what I'll tell you is that at least I'm doing it versus before I wouldn't. And everybody in this room will hold me accountable and be like, girl, it's fine. Like, stop the drama. It's okay.
Like no one's going to hold it over your head. Even if some of us have had that experience, which is also why we feel so much like that. Cause it's like, hey, if someone's ever held like support over your head, then you're just like, I'm going to pay it, not pay it forward. I'm going to pay it forward before I ever ask for anything.
Exactly. Like, so it's like counting the chips essentially, but no one's doing that. But this is what I'll tell you. And then I'll let somebody else jump in. So I can just be uncomfortable in a quiet corner. But the thing is though, Yeah. And I think everybody here says this a lot in their coaching, in their business. It's like, you can't do it alone. Like, that's why we're all coaches and service providers, because you actively cannot do it alone, nor should you do it alone.
Yeah.
And so the moment that
was it Yuritzy saying, like, if it's easy, do it alone. If it's hard, let's
exactly.
I
always
back to that.
You have to copyright that. So
yeah, that's so freaking good.
That we're getting shirts.
Because you agree with people where you're like, it is hard. And that's exactly why we're not supposed to do it alone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is that this community helps you not just practice having support, asking for support, but you feel safe in doing it, which I think is a really important piece. And like Lo kind of mentioned too, is that, you know, depending on what your experience has been, whether it's in your family, your friends, your community, whatever groups you have and whatever like past experiences have happened, it can be super hard to be like, well, how are all of you going to show up for me if no one else could?
Yeah.
That's crazy. But I'll tell you, I also the other day, I was like, I don't know if we're in a cult or anything, but this group is so supportive. It's crazy. I'm like, this is weird. I mean, like,
I told her we're not in a cult because they all like each other. We don't all just like Mariela and are here. Like, we all like each other too. I had to make the distinction.
Yeah. I had to get the definition of what a cult was. Apparently I got it wrong. But I'm just saying that this group is just
there's far too much resistance in this group for it to be a cult. There's no blind following.
You're right.
I was just like, that's okay. I mean, you can think that. We'll talk about it again.
The Slack be popping. We put Mariela to work with the pushback.
No, I was like, listen, it's easier in a cult, I'm sure, because everyone is just like, yes. I was like, you could bring all your resistance. It's fine. We're going to hold it.
Yeah. I think for me, growth was like hitting goals. And now for me, growth is community and support and vulnerability, which is like disgusting.
Yeah,
but that is still it. So I'll still complain about it, but I'll go there with everybody else.
But thank you for normalizing that. Like, you could be doing it and still not feel like so much. Even me with all of my coaching, I'm still like, oh, I would much rather be sarcastic than like actually talk about my feelings. Like, even when it's like, I want to say something really, even if it's my sister, I'm like, I'll text it to you later. Like, I have a hard time saying it to you right now. So I feel you. You don't have to change how you think about it, but just to be able to do it anyway, I think is so powerful.
I think it's like the combination of two things, like just what you said, Dani, around like growing to be accepting of receiving, because that's such a huge one. But I think I've noticed that a lot of the individuals in this group, a lot of us are first or second gen, that we're women of color or family of color, like, and we grew up being givers. Like, there's just this natural thing that comes from so many of the individuals in this group that it's like, in Spanish, we say les nace to give. Like, it's just something that's in them to give. And I've seen so much of that in this group, whereas I'm just like, hey, I'm just going to like, you all come and connect with me and let's do peer coaching around something I usually charge so much for. And it's really uncomfortable in a way. Like, it wasn't like, this feels so weird. And it goes back to like the mutual aid thing because...
Yeah, when you told me that, I didn't know that term. I think a lot of what I'm doing is intuitive, Rosa, but you told me you're like, BIPOC communities are based in mutual aid. And when mutual aid, it means the community comes together and is like, hey, I got you here. What do you need? Oh, you have me here. And like, what do we all need? And then the community is not just greater than the sum of its parts in terms of knowledge, which is an actual what a mastermind is, but it's also in aid and in support. And so I think I was observing it and I was like, this is wild. Like, I'm seeing people's stories and I'm just like, they're meeting with this person and this person's meeting with this person. And then it's very evident in the Slack channel that y'all have been talking and they're just giving. And I was just like, what is happening? So you explained it to me and you're like, right, it's because we naturally operate this way in our communities. This is ancestral. Like, this is just how we want to do things when we feel safe.
And it's so countering, like, I think a lot of what we grow up, especially in American culture, that we have to hoard our gifts, that like we can't like share it or give it because like the scarcity mindset of like, oh, if I share my gifts, that means other people are going to learn this or that. And it's going to take away from me and my business. And the reality is when we are able to like oh, I read this book, you should read it. Or I saw this thing over here. Or, hey, come over here and let me walk you through one of my services. Or I saw Kira, like on another person from our group, like just in the Boxer, be like, hey, let me show you how to market a product, like an actual,
oh yeah.
product. And I was just like, wow, it's just, and I think it became like a snowball effect too. Like one person did it and it made it safer for another and it made it safer for another. And then it just now feels good. Like, okay, this is just part of our culture in this group that we know that if we need support, this group can give it. Because I know when I first started, especially, I'm definitely getting more peer coaching this round than I did my first round because I felt uncomfortable receiving at that level. But now that I'm seeing like giving and receiving and that I also see how I can give a little bit now, like
you ran a whole LinkedIn workshop too. I think receiving sometimes helps you be like, oh, I actually have a lot to give, like whether it's support or space holding or whatever, or it's something that you do for yourself.
And I think something worth noting is that me and Mariela were very, very intentional around planning this. And I know around planning safety in the group.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up.
There's no safety, then no one's going to share, or they're going to only share to a certain level.
Yeah.
And so being able to do that through, I mean, in past masterminds, it was through like in the live event online. And then this past one was in person, but it was all about us being able to see each other, us being able to connect in different ways, play, to have fun, to get to know each other in different ways. So that way we can go in knowing like, okay, like this person, there's a level of safety that's already there, that's already established, that allows people to then go in a little bit deeper and actually share.
Thank you for bringing that up because I hadn't thought about that, but we did make an effort. Like it was actually in the plan in the last rounds where the live events were virtual and then this last one where it was in person. But even before that, where it was, we spent a lot of time on introductions and not just introductions on like, here's what I do for my business, but like people kind of sharing things about what shaped them. And it almost was like a gradual build of folks really taking up airtime and sharing who they are. And so there was something from that where it's like, oh, here's what I do and here's what I know. And that it was a lot easier for people to offer aid and receive it because of that as well. So it's like, you can't just put people in a room and be like, okay, be friends, or support each other. So that was part of it too, is I thought about like what would make it easy for me to connect with other people is knowing who's in the room, because that's what also happens with even in-person events. Like I've gone to live events of masterminds and then I know people, but I don't know them. And then the community feeling doesn't extend even if you spend the next 6 months together. So thank you for helping me plan that, because that was a big part where I was like, Yuri, my brain doesn't think in this way. Like I want to create this thing. And then you helped me come up with like a plan for how can we do this and then build upon it over the course of, a couple of days. And it was beautiful.
Well, I'm going to add a whole different element to the whole thing. I came here looking for some people who were dope that I could kick it with. Like, and so yes to all the safety, but honestly, being on a boat in Xochimilco helped me know who my people are. Like, so I think there's just like this part of, I was very conscious going into entrepreneurship that like, I couldn't just sit in this room all day, every day and be all right. Like I am an extrovert. I need people. I always was hosting events for my staff and hanging out with my staff, and I still kick it with some of them. Like I was like, it's not going to work for me to be an entrepreneur if it's just me. And I will say like, I'm at like 2.5 years at this point, like full time. And I really struggled in the beginning with just like, I was in different containers. The coaches were great, but like, it didn't necessarily translate to like, I want to hang out with all these people.
Yeah.
And like, Yuri was just with me in Vegas for my birthday. I hung out with Rosa when I was in Oakland. I hung out with you when I was in Oakland.
Yep.
Dani in LA, we had brunch. I haven't been to Boston, but when I do, I'm going to hang out with Lo. Like,
yep. When I was in DC, I went to brunch with Lo. It's just like, I was like, everybody in this room on purpose goes and hangs out with each other, which is like, that comes from the heart.
Yeah. So like for me, it was like, how do I find these other people who understand this part of my life that not everybody else does? Like, yeah, my parents and my family's rooting me on, but like, I'm not going to get into deep conversation around business with my family because it's just like, they don't get it in the same way. Yeah. Same with friends. Like I've got friends who like want the best for me, but they don't fully get the nuance and the different things that happen on this journey that like, to your point of like, you don't want to have to constantly explain yourself, like not only as Latina, but also as an entrepreneur. And so like, what does it look like to be in a space with people who are having similar journeys? I can talk about this with, we can go out for drinks, and a lot of us travel because of the work that we're doing too. So I can also know that I have these people all over the place that are supporting me and that I can just bring in as like new, deep relationships in my life for this new phase of my life. And so community to me, like, yes, I asked for help and I was at Rosa's LinkedIn Live workshop and all the things, but really I was coming here looking for more than just the coach, but also just like people that I knew were going to be friends and part of this journey with me beyond, reclamation or whatever else comes in the future. And the other piece I'll also mention for you is that, I mean, I met you in these Instagram streets back in like 2020.
Yeah.
didn't have you as a coach until 2023, but you helped me find the person who was running my social media. You gave me advice at various points along the way. You and I were also in a coaching container, and you reached out to me to say like, hey, I hear some of the stuff you're talking about. How can I help you? Yeah. You also very much have been a person that I experienced for 3 years before you became my coach, were willing to give, which also to the part about the people you attract people who do the same. You're very open about your journey and who you are. You've attracted people who do the same. So I think just kind of having been in your orbit for some time and then eventually getting to the point where it was like, you know what, I think I'm ready to also work with Mariela as my coach. Like, I'm sure the same way I was watching and experiencing you, so many other people have. And it was like, we give because it's just something that we can do. And then at some point we know that when it's meant to be business, it'll be business. And if it's not, like, we also gave, but it's somehow going to come back to us in a positive way. So that energy that you gave out in my relationship with you before you were ever my coach, I think is also another sign of like the people who are attracted into this group.
Thank you for reflecting that back to me, Michelle, because I think, one thing that I can say, and you sharing that with me, is that I think when you naturally are just generous or you give, I don't even think about it. So I'm just like, oh yeah, I did. So I think it's just such a good reminder that we're not actively thinking of how we are generous and support, others, because it's just like breathing, but it doesn't mean that it isn't working and that it isn't helping, but because we're not doing it with that intention. So I think even just you saying that helped me realize that generosity is like a strength. As long as it's not coming from like, I'm doing, see, anytime it isn't, it's because people are doing it because they want to get something, but it's just like, no, we actually like really want to support each other and help each other. And so just to know it was received, but that makes sense.
Yeah. And actually that reminds me of something I actually said to, I think I used it as a general example. It wasn't to Rosa, but it was about Rosa. Like this idea too, to that, like our generosity is when we choose to give it and not when we have to give it. And like, I remember when Rosa did her, like, I think you had like 25 people who you like welcomed into like a free coaching group for like 5 weeks or something. And it was totally free. And you were so excited about it. And that's very different than the energy of 25 people coming to you and expecting you to do something for them. Yeah. And so I think just also like, because, we also got to work on our boundaries. Like for a lot of us, it's just really like, when do I want to choose to give and not when am I expected to? And I think this group is very much a lot of people who want to give. It's not expected of us, but we give it freely. And some people are like, cool, I'll receive that. And then I'll give as well. Yeah. But the expectation is not there, but the generosity just flows because of that, I think too.
Yeah. I feel that.
I think there's no feelings when life is happening or business is busy or work is busy. And you have to take a step back. No one's like, oh, well, where's so-and-so? Like, they're not participating. Everybody will be supportive of you taking the time and space and of you holding the boundary, to Michelle's point, of taking care of yourself and your family first, because that's why we all have businesses. So I love that there's no tit for tat at all. So when we're generous and we want to be generous, and we are supportive of each other when we have to take a step back. It reminded me of when Dani's like, when the group doubled this last round, Dani and I were like, we can't keep up with Slack. We can't keep up with Voxer because we're like.
And then I had to tell y'all don't have to keep up with Slack. Right. I keep up with Slack.
We're like the hall monitors. We're like the hall monitors. And we're like, can't take it.
That's because you welcome everybody, Lo. Like, you're the person who's like, I'm going to start the new Voxer thread, like all this stuff. And I was just like, it's okay. You don't need to keep up with Slack. That's my job. But
Michelle,
the Voxer thread was popping off.
You're so good at minding your own business, girl. Meanwhile, these two over here, home monitoring, which I think both of us really enjoy it. And we like to be in the know with what's happening. Yeah. In the times, speaking to your next question, Mariela, about navigating tough seasons of life within reclamation and how it's like impacted, you know, our dealing with that. When we have moments like that, people know that it's not that we don't love you. It's not that we're not thinking about you. It's just we're handling other things. And I love that respect amongst a group. The other thing I wanted to mention before jumping into that topic was just that I think there's no fronting or stunting in this group. So it's like people keep it really real, and that makes it so that community develops much faster than maybe in other places. And I also feel like there's no hierarchy of like anything, you know? Yeah. Everybody has different gifts and different areas of expertise. And it's just like there's so much to tap into. There's multiple people that I still need to peer coach with that have specialties that I'm interested in. So it's so fun to be able to look around and be like, oh, I need help with this. I know who to ask. And we make it open for everybody to jump on the conversation if it interests them.
I love that you brought up about like the no hierarchy, because I know that a lot of like groups are sort of based on that, and or folks that maybe have are at a certain income level or something. You feel like, oh, well, we can't approach them. And like, I feel like with this group, everyone is just open and available and supportive and all of that.
And everybody like really owns their areas of expertise. So it's more a skill set.
Like a place to practice it and own it. Because I always say that like a mastermind, if you feel safe in it, is actually a place to work through the resistance that you have in your business that's showing up or within yourself, a space to explore it and practice it, and a place to own your expertise because you're owning it internally and helping other people with it.
And in terms of seasons of life, I think everybody on this call has navigated multiple seasons since we've been together for the last year of just ups and downs in life, things that were unexpected and kind of threw you for a loop for a month or two or a whole quarter, like me, quarter one. Yeah. And it's been so nice to have actual like support in friendship in the group, but also like area of expertise support. I've leaned a lot on Yuri, her area of expertise with regulating my nervous system and learning how to slow down because life was not letting up. And I think the lesson that I had to learn over and over again was like how to slow down, how to listen to my body, how to allow for space, how to ask for support in order to have the space. Recently, I had to ask for not even time off. I just needed some slack at work because I still practice as an attorney and I'm a litigator. So deadlines are just like very like grueling. They all come at once. So I remember talking to Yuri about asking my boss for just some slack. Like I can do a few hours of work here and there. I'm not going to take huge amounts of days off, but I need time where I don't feel like I'm on because I'm on in so many other parts of life that I can't opt out of, like parenthood and being a partner and all that stuff. And Yuri and Dani really supported me through that. But honestly, everybody in the group, as you become more okay with sharing what's actually going on, you find like such deep support on different things and in different ways from different people. Like Kira and I like just talk shit on Boxer all day.
Yeah.
And that's also like therapeutic in different ways.
And I think it's and for like context for those who are listening, right now we're kind of talking about like navigating tough seasons of life while operating your business and how community really helps you to navigate those, because we are not like, we don't just like show up a certain way and then like, we're just like that forever. Like we're still humans. And sometimes things will happen in life that affect how we show up in business, and having people you can talk to about your actual life is different, because you could be in a group and it can be business, but like you need to feel safe with doing that and actually feel like these are people that you want to share that with and that are supporting you as a human first and foremost. So you had that, you went through an experience like that recently. And I know last year you had like a tough season as well, and like letting yourself be in that season, knowing that you could come out of it and give yourself what you need.
Yeah, it was much easier with the support. And it was also really easy because I had booked out the business leading up to it. So going back to what you were saying about intuition and intuitive hits, like when I sold my last spot last fall, I still felt like I wanted to do something else at the tail end of the year. So the last 6 weeks of the year was the first time that I did that service event, the Pivot Clinic.
Yeah.
And it was really just for fun, to help people and to get to know some people in my community that I hadn't spoken to. But as a result of that, I ended up booking out the whole first quarter this year, which I didn't know that I was going to need so bad, to not feel any pressure to sell in the first quarter of this year so that I can navigate what I needed to go through.
Yeah.
And it was like such a gift to have the ability to like listen to myself when I'm high and just roll with it and keep selling and keep creating the demand. And when the time comes to slow down, to actually feel safe enough to slow down, but also to have the circumstances to support me to slow down and to create that safety.
And I think about how, like, when you're going through something, that's really where you really rebuild your belief that like you're going to be okay and that you can call in the clients. Because when you don't think that you can do that, then that's where it stops you from actually giving yourself what you need. Because you're like, if I slow down, you know, and Yuti, you alluded to this too, around a thought that you had around taking a sabbatical, that it's like, if you don't actually believe that it's not going to just go away tomorrow, then you're never going to want to shut down. So that's like a big part of what we build, is safety around like, how did you create what you created? What are your gifts? What has been working? Because when you have that, then you can be like, I'm going to intentionally choose that right now I'm not energetically available for clients. I know a lot of coaches would be like, no, you need to always be selling. And I'm like, yes. And if we actually look at what it is that we need, and are we in like a regenerative season? Maybe we're doing work that looks different. Maybe we're, you know, just finding safety in our lives. That's really where you test. Do you actually feel safe in what you have already created and what you're holding? Like, that's the only way that you know. So that's what you build in those seasons.
I was about to say, Yuti, how are you feeling about this right now?
Oh, last year,
live feed.
one of the hardest years of my life. So I moved, bought a house, had a loved one pass away, a lot of things, triggers and stuff with like being a mother. And I don't know, it was really, really, really hard. And the year that I've sold the most, like it was my highest grossing year.
Wild.
You know?
Just how those two things can coexist. Because I remember October in particular, I think was like your biggest month you ever had. And also it was a really difficult time.
Yeah, it was like 20K in sales or something like that.
Yeah. I know you had like a big corporate contract or something that came through. I don't know if it was like 60 something.
Oh, no, you're right. You're right. It was 60.
Yeah, it was like 60. I feel like I remember numbers randomly. I was like, I remember we were in Long Beach together and then I saw you, but I didn't see the post. And then I saw the post and I was like, Yuti, I just saw like it was like a 67K contract or something. And y'all had just moved because I was in Long Beach and you came back to visit family. So it was like a lot of number one, transition. Number two, there was still loss that you were, you know, navigating. And then big business comes in, like biggest month. And it's like, sometimes it happens like that, you know what I mean? And what will happen when we don't feel safe is like, oh, stop everything. Like, I should do it. Yeah.
I think it was very grounding. The mastermind was very grounding in the sense that like, it was always, there was always permission. There was always like take care of yourself. Like there was never a pressure to like, but you have to. It was always like, no, go yourself.
Yeah.
When I would have those bursts or when I would have those, you know, moments coming in and getting coached on, like when I would feel, oh my God, I can't handle this, or I don't know what I'm doing, to be able to be held and be like, no, yeah, you do, girl. Like, it's wild when you're going through so many life transitions to allow it's like almost like the life transitions were happening and it was like this space was what was holding me as I was like continuing in my business. It was like, hey, keep going, girl, keep going, we're going.
Yeah.
You'd like to rest. I mean, you need to do what you need to do it. And now on a mini sabbatical, so I'm like half at 50% capacity about, and then it's going to be the anniversary, you know, the death anniversary this coming weekend. And like, there's just so many things I'm navigating, and it still feels like I was telling Dani, and I was like, I feel horrible because like I feel like I'm not as present but I've never felt that tension. It's always like that y'all supporting me so much and like, no, do what you got to do. I'm here for you. Do you want to call? Do you want us to check in? Do you like, and so many people from the mastermind have been so supportive and their help in so many beautiful ways.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And if anything, in those seasons, it might just be like, oh, you're just missed. You know, like people are just like checking in on you. And I think that's more important than anything. You know, it's like, we just want to know, like, what do you need? But we're so grateful for you. And I think that like you get to have those seasons, like take the time, you know, and knowing that like everybody is still thinking about you and like wanting to know how they can support you and that it isn't just business.